Tonight, we are going to induct our 7th class. They're going to join 46 men who have previously been inducted. A number of them are with us this evening, and rather than run the risk of forgetting anyone, I will read off the names of all of our Hall of Fame members and ask that those that are with us this evening please stand to be recognized. Our initial class of 2008, Mr. Steve Dolan, Mike Wright, Ed Croca, Jerry Brown, Terry Flynn, Jerry Thomas, Joe Sturdivant, Tom Melchow, and Mike Robertson. The class of 2009, John Horan, Jack O'Brien, Dick Swenson, Denny Monahan, and Andrew Brown. The class of 2010, Gene Hardman, Jack Salscheider, Chuck Kelly, Pat Eilers, Jim Murray, Dave Stevican, John Kelly. The class of 2011, Todd Spicer, Pat Masha, Tom Feely, Sean Maher, Angelo Giuliani, Skip McMahon, Dennis Fitzpatrick, Kevin Berg, and Tony Abbott. The class of 2012, Tom Einott, Julian Bilski, Joe Jensen, Jack Hoffner, Ryan Murray, Randy Scarta, Mark Montgomery, and Dick Urbanski. Last year's class was Mike Mullen, Rich Allen, Roger Anderson, Jim Warner, Mike Flood, Pat Tinglehoff, Javier Collins, and Jeremy Harris. And now, let's meet the class of 2014. Our first inductee this evening is Herbert F. Mischke from the class of 1945. During his academy athletic career, Herb was a four-sport athlete who would be an 8-time letter winner. As a football player, he would earn letters in 1943 and again in 1944. He would help lead the cadets to conference championships both seasons, and for his efforts, he would be a 2-time all-conference selection. As a baseball player, Herb would also be a 2-time letter winner, earning letters in 1944 and again in 1945. As a senior, he would serve as the team's captain and would again be a 2-time all-conference selection. Herb would also earn 2 letters in basketball and 2 letters in golf. With his athletic career at the academy complete, Herb would attend the College of St. Thomas and play football for 1 season in 1945. With the influx of older veteran servicemen returning to the college to complete their studies, he decided to drop sports and concentrate on academics. He would earn a degree in mathematics and graduate in 3 years at the age of 20. Following college, Herb began a career in the life insurance industry, where he would become active in a number of local, state, and national organizations, including serving as the national president of the 140,000-member National Association of Life Insurance Underwriters. Today, Herb and his wife, Betty, live in St. Paul. They had 3 children, Greg, Bobby, and Mark. They have 7 grandchildren and 3 great-grandchildren. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome with me 2014 Hall of Fame inductee from the class of 1945, Mr. Herbert F. Mischke.
Thank you. Thank you very much for that very gracious introduction, and thank you all for being here and your warm welcome. This is really the Academy's version of the Academy Awards, I guess. And I'm honored to be the first to receive my award. I first must indicate to you that my theme for the brief remarks I'm going to make is that I am grateful. I'm grateful for all of your being here. I'm grateful to my parents who in a small town decided to send me away to school. I lived in a town so small that there was no place you could go you shouldn't be. A town where everybody knew what everybody else was doing, but they waited until the weekly newspaper came out, so you got caught at it, you see. But because we had no high school, I was sent down here to St. Thomas Academy during World War II. 1943 was my first year. And the Navy had occupied Ireland Hall. We were at war. I lived on on the campus of the seminary at Loris Hall. And we marched every day over to the main campus, if you can believe that. Come hell or high water, as the saying would go. So that was quite an experience. And then my senior year, I did live in what was called the Annex, the lumberman's home on the corner of Marshall and Pryor that's no longer there. And Father Ed Holland, our principal at the time, had a chapel there, and he said Mass there every morning. And so I had some wonderful experiences. I had the advantages that I didn't really expect. Obviously, I'm grateful to my parents who sent me here. I'm also grateful to my lovely wife of 65 years who's put up with me for a long time. And I can remember when our son and daughter, we lived out in Roseville, when our son and daughter were coming to St. Thomas Academy, and daughter Bobby to Durham Hall, she would get us up at 6 in the morning, prepare breakfast to get us all going. So she had a big part to play in that as well. And of course, Bobby and Mark, my daughter and son, who are really in business with me, and I'm still in business. I'd drive Betty crazy if I stayed home. But we have an office in Little Canada. It's a little office building. It's kind of like a little home. It used to be downtown St. Paul, but that kind of got old hat. Now, I'm also grateful for the encouragement and the letters of recommendation of two former winners who are both here. One is, they've both been introduced, Steve Nolan and Ed Croca. They both wrote letters of recommendation, and rather persuasive letters, I might say. Now, I have just a couple of other thoughts. My favorite teacher was Leroy Brown, who's still living. And he taught physics. And I had a note from him the other day. His handwriting is better than mine. He's over 100 years old. But he taught me a lesson in electricity. And the lesson was basically this. He had us all hold hands, and the two end guys held onto a wire connected to a generator. And he cranked that generator, and slowly and a little faster. Nothing happened. We didn't feel anything. And all of a sudden, one of the guys let low, and we all jumped because we got the shocks of our lives. So he taught us about electricity. Now, I'm also grateful for the fact that Father Ed Holland was another figure that I admired greatly. Father Ed Holland had a delayed vocation. He had been a jazz pianist playing Dixieland music at dances, and we got him to sit down and play piano at one time, but it was difficult. And he did slowly start out, and then he kind of jazzed it up. I remember the song was "Smoke Gets in Your Eyes." It's a long-time favorite. Now, I'm also grateful to our whole family, including Jacob, who is a senior here at this academy, and the last in our 7 or 8 of us, and I was the first. So the experience goes on and on, we hope, and we've benefited so much by our life with the academy, and our instruction, and obviously our staff and faculty deserve all the credit. So thank you so much for your attention. I appreciate the opportunity to tell you my story.
Herb, thank you very much for your remarks. We want to present you with your Hall of Fame ring.
Oh, my. I get paid. Thank you.
Congratulations.
Our next inductee is Dr. Wayne H Taliber from the class of 1956. During his athletic career at the Academy, Wayne would be a 3-sport athlete and a 9-time letter winner. As a football player, he would be a three-time letter winner from 1953 to 1955. As a senior, he would earn both all-conference and all-state honors. He would also be a three-time letter winner in basketball from 1954 to 1956. As a senior, he would again earn all-conference honors. Wayne would also earn 3 letters playing baseball from 1954 to 1956, and as a senior, he would serve as the team's captain. Following his career at the academy, he too would head to St. Thomas College, where he would play basketball from 1957 to 1960. During the 1960 season, he would serve as the team's captain. Following his career at the college, Wayne attended medical school and began a career as a physician. He has served as the chairman of the Ramsey County Medical Society. He has served as the medical director of Our Lady of Good Counsel Cancer from 1968 to 2008. He has served as the medical director of Health East Hospice from 1992 to 2001. Today, he and his wife Dorothy live in Mendota Heights. They have 5 children, Julie, Steve, Scott, Kara, and David. They have 12 grandchildren. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome with me 2014 Hall of Fame inductee from the class of 1956, Dr. Wayne H Taliber.
Well, good afternoon. This indeed is really an honor. I'm humbled by the list of previous inductees, and to be included in that list is truly an honor. This selection to the Academy's Hall of Fame doesn't come about by accident. A lot of work and preparation went into this, and it started about a year and a half ago with 2 people, Steve Dolan and Tom Mooney. Tom Mooney is a friend, but a cretin raider. And he and Steve got together and began exploring my eligibility for the Hall of Fame. They contacted my class member, Mike Igo, and Mike and Kathy Igo did a tremendous amount of work, because I had so far to go, putting together newspaper clippings, filling out the forms, and gathering letters of recommendation. So I'm indebted to the Igos and to the people who wrote letters of recommendation: Mike Wright and Terry O'Laughlin, Jerry Mertz, Mike Igo himself, and Mary Igo, with whom I worked. So I'm deeply thankful for those people and for their efforts. The other people that I would like to thank: my family, who is here today. Thank you all for coming. My friends, and many of my classmates showed up. It's since our 50th class reunion, we have grown together again, getting together for a monthly luncheon, for get-together up north, which we just had a couple weeks ago, and for a Christmas luncheon to be held at Jack's Cafe. So many of our classmates are here today, and I thank them for coming. St. Thomas Academy is known as a college preparatory school, but for me it was a life preparatory school, because it conditioned me for the challenges and the opportunities I had in life. And the real members of the Hall of Fame, I think, are my teachers and my coaches. Not only were they academically sound men and women, but their values still echo in my life today. They were just good, wholesome people. My coaches, Coach Skip Mcmahon, Jack Campbell, Ed Rumsey, Tom Fili, excellent coaches, and they had the unique ability to match an individual's talent with a particular position. They taught me how to win, but more importantly, how to lose, which translates and is helpful in the ups and downs of life. There was one episode that I like to relate in particular, just a brief story about Skip McMahon. It was after I had completed medical school and was in practice for several years, and I was watching my son Steve play Cretin at Central Stadium, and it was nearing halftime, and I felt this presence on my left side, and I looked up, and here's Coach McMahon. He said, could I talk to you for a few minutes? Sure, Coach. So we climbed up to the steps of Central Stadium. We had our backs against the wall, and Skip was having some medical problems that he wanted to talk over with me. And as we talked, I was really humbled by the fact that he had asked me, and the fact that I was able to give him some direction and a little bit of help. And as I drove home that night, I began to realize that all my academics and all my athletics really translated into the bottom line of being able to serve. And that has held me in good stead throughout my life, and I'm deeply appreciative for it. So I'm very thankful for being elected to the Hall of Fame for the Academy, and I'll treasure this honor for the end of my days. Thank you very much.
Our third inductee this evening is Patrick B. Fili from the class of 1963. During his academy athletic career, Pat was a 3-sport athlete and a 9-time letter winner. As a football player, Pat would earn 3 letters from 1960 to 1962 and was an all-conference selection his senior season. As a basketball player, he would earn letters in 1962 and 1963, and he would help lead the cadets to a pair of state tournament runner-up finishes, and for his efforts, he would be selected to the all-regional and the all-state tournament teams in 1963. As a baseball player, he would be a 4-time letter winner from 1960 to 1963. As a senior, he would be an all-conference selection, and he would be voted by his classmates as the best athlete in his class. With his athletic career at the Academy complete, Pat would also attend the College of St. Thomas. He would again be a 3-sport athlete, earning 10 letters, 3 in football, 3 in basketball, and 4 in baseball. As a senior, he would be named to the All-MIAC football team, the All-MIAC baseball team, and he would be named an NAIA College Football Little All-American. With his athletic career at the college complete, Pat would become an educator. He would spend the next 48 years as a teacher, a principal, and a coach. His coaching stops would include Minneapolis Roosevelt and Burnsville High Schools, where he would coach baseball, basketball, tennis, and softball. One of Pat's Burnsville tennis players would win an individual state title in 1997. Today, Pat and his wife Sue live in Burnsville. They have 3 children, Krista, Molly, and Todd, and 2 grandchildren, Aaron and Sarah. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome with me 2014 Hall of Fame inductee from the class of 1963, Mr. Patrick B. Fili.
Thank you. This is an eerie feeling for me being up here. On the one hand, I'm very proud, very excited to receive this award from a great institution this is. On the other hand, I also am humbled by the fact when I look back at the early 60s, I was not the greatest academic cadet, and I also wasn't the most skilled athlete at the academy. For that, I'm humbled. The last few days when I started thinking about what I would say here today, I stepped back and looked a little bit at my own past, and what I saw was there were several times in my past when I was having difficulty going from point A to point B. I looked at that and saw also that I was quite lucky that each time I had that kind of a difficulty, there was someone there to nudge me, encourage me, push me along, and help me get to that point B. That all started for me when I was a child still living at home. My mom would take charge and assist me in my academics and my socialization. My dad would assist me in my introduction into athletics and introduce me to the Catholic faith. And I also at that time had 3 brothers, and if the book of knowledge about childhood psychology says that sibling fighting was a means of bonding, then my brothers and I were the greatest bonded group of brothers in America. My youngest brother is Dan, Dr. Dan Fili. Also, all my brothers went to the academy and graduated from the academy. Dan was a doctor and is a doctor in Plymouth, Minnesota. My other brother, TJ, known as Tom, he's from Tampa, Florida, was going to be here today. He had a emergency triple bypass last week. And so he is at home right now recovering and doing well. My brother Dick and his wife Terry are here today. They are both from Seattle, spent their adult life in Seattle because Dick is an oceanographer, has been for 100 years in Seattle, and his wife Terry is a longtime nurse. Proceeding from there to my own family, as the introduction said, my wife, Sue, we have been married 40 years, and she can't be here because of a long-term illness, but I want to say something from my heart about her. I've coached for 49 years, and I can honestly say that I could not have coached that long without her by my side. She's very encouraging, very positive. She held me up when I was down. The coaching field is a roller coaster. And I'm very, very thankful that she was with me these years during coaching, and appreciate and love her for being with me every step of the way. We have 3 children who are here today. My oldest daughter, Molly, is a doctor at the Mayo Clinic. My son is here with his daughter, Erin. My son is a school teacher in South Minneapolis. And my newlywed youngest daughter, Krista, is here today. And she is a school psychologist in Superior, Wisconsin. And that leads me to my academy family in the early 60s. I think like everybody else, it's pretty normal for the first group of support that you have are your coaches. My 3 coaches were Skip McMahon in football, Don O'Shaughnessy in basketball, and Terry Flynn in baseball. And they kept me in line so I wouldn't get in trouble and made sure my grades were what they were supposed to be. I also had a staff person that I became close to, Father Bullock. He was my religion teacher. Father Bullock would put his arm around my shoulder and say, "Pat, this is football season. You and I are not going to talk much because your brain is scrambled right now. We'll talk later." And when we did, I listened intently because he had some great words of wisdom for me about life in general. Finally, I'd like to say a few words about my peer group. During my early years in the 60s when I was here at the academy, I counted last night, I think I had 168 friends and 4 enemies. No, I'm kidding. But I did have 4 very close friends. They all happened to be athletes. They all happened to be basketball players. John O'Connell, Jerry Sturtevant. I knew I was going to forget one of them. Tom Garrity and John Hermes. We were close. We were tight. I remember on a Saturday night, we would, almost every Saturday night, we would stroll through the doors of Carboni's Pizza on Randolph and Cleveland as if we were the only 5 17-year-old boys on the planet. And we would socialize with the OLP girls and the Durham Hall girls and the Viz girls. Actually, we'd socialize with any girl that came in that would listen to us. Which brings me to a story I want to tell. My dad always told me, finish your talk with a story. And this is a story about, it's a true story about my friends and myself. Please visualize in your head the year being 1963. We were all seniors. It was a cold March Saturday. It was the biggest day of our young lives because that night we were going to play in the state Catholic championship basketball game against Bunnell. Now in those days when I played, it was pretty common that we knew if you were going to play a big game, it didn't have to be basketball, it could be any sport at the academy, and if you're going to play a big game against a public school, we always knew we were going to win. The reason is God was on our side. But this big championship game that I'm talking about was not against a public school, it was against Snell. And so that made it a little bit more dicey. We knew that, my friends and I, so we decided Saturday afternoon that we were all going together to go to St. Mark's and go to confession. We needed to cross our T's and dot our I's, make sure everything was in place for that big game. We marched up the steps of St. Mark's, marched into the church, sat in the pew right next to the confessional. We had it down, we knew what we were doing. We were going to put Sturtevant in the confessional first because we knew he'd be there longest. And sure enough, 2 minutes later, this huge voice out of the priest's booth, loud enough for the entire church to hear, says, "You did what?" It scared us. We ran out of the church, ran down the steps, ran into the street, turned around and looked at the church because we forgot we left Sturtevant there. We played the game that night. It was a fierce game with Snell, back and forth. The game was always close. Everybody's playing as hard as we could, and finally it ended. God wasn't on our side. We lost by 3. Thank you.
Pat, it's great to hear your psychological take. There was a lot of bonding going on at our house, too. John, I'm going to get in a lot of trouble with you. You guys can't see what we see when we're standing up here, but there's a great big sign on top of the piano that says, "Do not put anything on top of the piano," and the first thing I did was put my coat on it, and now there's a big sign here that says, "Do not move the microphone." I apologize. Our next inductee this evening is Dr. Christopher C. Brown from the class of 1969. During his athletic career at the Academy, Chris was a 3-sport athlete and a 7-time letter winner. As a football player, Chris would earn 3 letters from 1966 to 1968. He would help lead the cadets to conference championships in 1966 and in 1968. The cadets would go undefeated in 1968 and win a state championship. And as a senior, Chris would be named to the all-conference team, the public and private all-metro teams, and the public and private all-state teams. A knee injury suffered at the end of his junior football season would limit Chris's participation on the basketball court in 1968, but he returned a letter in 1969 and helped lead the cadets to a berth in the state tournament. As a baseball player, Chris would earn an additional 3 letters from 1967 to 1969 and serve as the team's captain during his senior season. He would help lead the cadets to 2 conference championships and the state title in 1969, and for his efforts, Chris would be named to the 1968 and the 1969 all-conference teams. With his athletic career at the Academy complete, Chris would attend the University of Minnesota, where he would earn baseball letters in 1972 and 1973. As a senior, he would help lead the Gophers to the Big Ten championship. The Gophers would win the Midwest Regional, where Chris would be named to the all-tournament team. They would go on to finish 3rd at the College World Series. Chris would spend the next 2 years playing professionally in the Texas Rangers farm system before returning to the University of Minnesota to attend medical school. For the last 29 years, Chris has been working in the Twin Cities as an anesthesiologist. Today, he and his wife Melinda live in St. Paul. They have 3 children, Daniel, Andrew, and Nicholas. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome with me 2014 Hall of Fame inductee from the class of 1969, Dr. Christopher C. Brown.
Wow. I am so excited to be here and to join this group. I'd like to thank, first of all, the committee. I think nobody understands how much work they must do to put this all together. They have to vet all these nominees, review all those statistics, ferret out the fallacious ones, like the one sent in by my brother. And I'd also like to thank the folks that have nominated me or helped put me up, and that would be Dennis Fitzpatrick, also a member of our Hall of Fame. Of course, my brother Jerry, who has, I'm sure, done that yearly for some time now. And I think also an assist from Terry Flynn. Thanks, Coach. I'd like to acknowledge that my family's here, my lovely wife Mindy, who has helped me complete my life through the last many years, and my 3 sons, Dan, Andrew, and Nick here, who have all graduated from the academy. I'm very proud of them all, and I have a large group of extended family and an amazingly large group of friends that have come out here today to support me. That warms me up very much. Thank you all for coming. You know, I had several fortunate breaks to lift me up onto this podium here. And of course, it started with my family, and just as all of the other members have alluded to, I was the last of 4 boys in a total sports mad family. We started in 1 bedroom, and it was a locker room. Every day was game on. We played something, they dragged me along. We were everywhere, all over the neighborhood. We had Sports Central in our large backyard. Well, my next oldest brother, Buster, of course, is a member of your Hall of Fame here. He was a high school All-American football player, and he dragged me along like a puppy dog everywhere that he went. And of course, my brother Jerry, who would finally make it into the Minnesota High School Coaches Hall of Fame. And I was his test case number 1. He coached me in every sport from Pee-wees through high school. No matter what season it was, he was there for me to coach. And so he honed his discipline on me. Sometimes I think I should take some credit for what he is. You know, he has been described by many as being a firm taskmaster. Of course, they were being diplomatic. Tough might be a better word. I can just give one example of thousands that is apropos to tonight. I remember when I was a young boy, maybe 8, 9, I asked Jerry, could you hit me some ground balls in the backyard? And he said, sure. So we went out. Of course, the backyard had seen quite a lot of play by that time. And of course, Jerry never hit slow rollers. So the inevitable would happen. I would take a hot one right in the nose. I saw stars. I was shocked. And nothing, as you know, bleeds like a well-struck nose. It was a flood. It was a fountain going down onto my shirt. I was horrified. I looked up, Coach, my brother, like that. And he said, no, 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 no. You have to take that one on the short hop. And don't bleed in the kitchen. I also had the good fortune of coming to the academy for what I think is the golden time of coaches. I don't think it was ever seen before or after. You know, of course, my brother was at the relatively early in his coaching career, and there were 4 great coaches at that point. It was the end of the tenure for Skip Mcmahon, and he was on the football coaching staff when I was a sophomore and I played. And that man was larger than life. He was so big and so intimidating, and he had such a great history behind him that everybody listened to him. He was very old school. He would remind you that football wasn't really tough when you had that little plastic thing in front of your face. What is that? We're supposed to play with no face mask. And he kind of, I think his motivational technique was straightforward. I think my brother drank a little bit of the nectar from Skip. Also, we had Terry Flynn. Terry Flynn, who was a superb athlete in his own right, and Mr. Tommy at the college, head coach of baseball, head coach of basketball, and head coach of football for a time as well. Terry was sheer joy to play for. He had great patience, as opposed to some of our other coaches. And he was a master strategist and tactician. And if there was a coach who could enjoy the game more than the players, it was Terry. It was fun and a joy to play for him. Coach. And then, of course, at the top of the heap was our imperious headmaster and head football coach, Mr. Ridley. And even after all this time, it's Mr. Ridley. Every morning he would stand right here and he would take this microphone and he would tell us exactly how high we were going to jump and what we were going to do. And his coaching style was the same way. He was an incredible motivator. He would talk to us before games and at halftime, and he was kind of a wiry guy with a lot of nervous energy, and he would sometimes pace a little back and forth, and he was trying to get us all excited, and pretty soon his voice would go up, and it would get higher and higher, and finally it was shrill. It was like a violin string, and it had that harmonic, and everybody just started to tingle all over. And people would literally run through walls for that guy, and that's what we did. So this was the golden period of coaching. It hasn't been seen since, and I don't know before, but I'm certain not before. And once again, I was lifted up by good fortune, which helped me get here. Last, I had the great good fortune of playing with superb athletes. We really, really had a group. A couple All-Americans who are in your Hall of Fame here, Dennis Fitzpatrick and Chuck Kelly, both here. Thanks, men. I appreciate it. And many other fine athletes. You should realize baseball that year, my senior year, 20 games in a row we won, dusted off Cretin several times, and in the final game of the state tournament. In the middle of the season, they had their all-star pitcher who had thrown 4 no-hitters, and we had our all-star strikeout king who was averaging 16 a game. I think half of St. Paul was at that game. That was quite a lot of fun. And then football, 8 games in a row, state championship. It's just a superb group. Basketball, into the state tournament, of course, eliminating Cretin. Might get the little theme that's going on here, but we fell to 3rd. And so it was really all about the team. It was about the effort. It was about the discipline that this place instills in a person. And in a larger sense, I think that's apropos to the entire school, isn't it? This school is about those very things, among others. Dedicated teachers, dedicated coaches. And really, in my particular case, dedicated students. I mean, I was pulled along to heights that I never would have got to if it wasn't for my fellow students, especially the classes immediately in front of me. They pulled me forward. I was lifted up. I was lifted up by the culture of St. Thomas. And for that, I will always be grateful. Thank you.
Our final inductee this evening is William R. Miley from the class of 1977. As a student athlete, Bill spent 4 years toiling on the academy gridiron. He would be a member of the 1975 state championship team and serve as a team captain during his senior season in 1976. But tonight, we're not here to celebrate Bill Miley, the student athlete, but Bill Miley, the coach. After graduating in 1977, Bill would return to the academy in 1988 and serve as the first alpine ski coach in school history. When he began his coaching career, his goal was to create a program at the academy that other ski programs across the state would want to emulate. He succeeded. He would serve on the Minnesota High School Advisory Committee for Rules and Interpretation for Alpine Skiing and be a pioneer in helping set new standards and establish new venues allowing the sport to grow. He would be recognized 4 times by the Minnesota State High School League and 3 times by the Minnesota State High School Coaches Association for his outstanding contributions to the sport of alpine skiing. In addition to coaching, Bill actively raised the funds that were required to elevate the academy program into a state powerhouse. During Bill's 10-year coaching career, he would compile a record of 117 wins and 11 losses. His teams would win 6 St. Paul Suburban Conference championships and 3 Section 5 titles. He would qualify for the state meet 4 times. They would finish 3rd in 1995 and runner-up in 1996. The 1994 team would be the Minnesota High School Coaches Association State Academic Champions. Bill's 1993 and 1997 teams would be state champions. And in 1996, he would coach cadet Nick Tongan to an individual state title. After leaving the academy, Bill and his family moved to Delaware, where he would coach youth baseball. In 2000, they would move back to Hayward, Wisconsin, where he would spend the next 4 years coaching high school football. In 2002, Bill would be presented with the Stormtrooper Award, the school's highest coaching honor, for developing a K through 6th grade football program that would attract over 235 kids, and for providing the leadership to get a new community football field built. In 2006, he would also be instrumental in bringing girls high school hockey to Hayward. Today, Bill is the Senior Vice President of Sales and Marketing for Burns & Miley Consulting, LLC. He and his wife, Susan, live in Hayward with their 2 children, Ryan and Sarah. Bill, I gotta believe somewhere Jack Saar's looking down with a big smile on his face today as I say, ladies and gentlemen, please welcome with me 2014 Hall of Fame inductee from the class of 1977, Mr. William R. Miley.
Thank you. Thank you very much. It was them, it wasn't me. Anyways, I'm a little bit nervous right now because when I used to come up here and speak to announce football games every Friday morning, there used to be this guy standing behind me saying, "Miles, you said ah again. Miles, stop saying ah. Miles, stop saying ah." That guy's Bill Culbertson, and I know he's here somewhere. And he was very intimidating. And so when I come up here, I'm always nervous. And I'd like to congratulate Bill on his terrific award. First, I'd like to thank Jack Saar for nominating me, and the Hall of Fame committee for recognizing me and my team's successes. Second, I'd like to talk to you a little bit about how I got started skiing. When I was 3 years old, I had a fake fur parka. And I spent a lot of time on the ground, and the snow would stick to the parka. My father nicknamed me Snowball, thinking that was very funny. I'd get really mad every time he called me that. And that inspired, it motivated me to become a better skier. And with that, I thank you, James P. Also, a little bit about the beginning of our program. When we started our program here at St. Thomas, there wasn't any hill time available at any area in the Twin Cities. So I sought out the director of racing at Buck Hill. Her name was Gabe Sears. She was a St. Paul girl. I invited her out to lunch at the Lex. I poured 3 martinis down her throat. And by the end of that lunch, St. Thomas had the best hill time available at Buck Hill. I'd like to talk to you a little bit about the philosophies we use to build our program, which I think were really key to our successes. Preparation. We didn't scout the best skier of our other teams. We scouted out their course setters. To know how their courses were to be set were key for our success. We'd also practice at the same time on the same hill that we were going to run those meets. That was key. We also would spend our whole budget on wax, because everything is measured by 100th of a second, and wax was key. I mean, if you didn't have good wax and fast skis, you weren't going to win. Motivation. I believed in positive motivation. Set goals and set them high. Believe in yourself and get better every day. Family participation. I noticed early on how much the families of our skiers gave to the program, and we built on that every day. They were a very, very important part of our success. Giving back to the community. Our sports team was the first team to raise money for Catholic Charities. We took the kids over to the St. Joe's home to open their eyes to people in real need. We raise thousands of dollars every year for the St. Joe's home by having pledged money for the team's wins. Promoting the sport. Alpine skiing got very little press. You guys probably never ever see it in the paper. Each night I would go home and spend hours on the phone talking to different newspapers, getting them to write about alpine skiing and our program, and giving them the information they needed to understand the sport, because they didn't even know how to score the sport. What this whole thing boils down to today is I'd like to thank all the kids that skied for my teams, because this tribute and honor is to them much more than it is to me. And I'd like to give all those guys a hand. Everybody says don't mention individual skiers. Well, I'm sorry if I forget you, but I did coach some real dandies and I need to mention them here today. Randy Mardell. Randy was our first real team leader. Anthony and Danielle Dalseth. Danielle Dalseth was disqualified twice at the state meet before the meet even began. Talk about high blood pressure and blood pressure medicine. I started it that day and still taking it today. Jacob Friends for his competitiveness. Matt Woosfelt for bringing unity to our team. Ben Heinz for demanding excellence. Freddie Plessner for bringing humor and fun to the program. And John Maury, my first athlete who spent 6 years in the program. And by spending 6 years and putting him up with me, the guy deserves a medal. Everybody also says you shouldn't thank individuals. Well, I'm going to thank some individuals because it's really needed today. First, I'd like to thank my mom and dad for all the opportunities they gave me and all the support. I know somebody up there in heaven is smiling today. And Mom, you're the greatest. Second, I'd like to thank my brother Tomer. Tomer skied with me for thousands of hours, pushing me to get better every day, and was my biggest fan. He's in heaven smiling today too. I'd like to thank all my other brothers and sisters for their support and their interest in my program. Next, I'd like to thank George Snell. George gave me the opportunity to become a head coach here at St. Thomas, and he believed in me. Next, I thank Jack Saar for his support and involvement, his constant demand of organization, because as Jack would say, if you're organized, Bill, people will follow you. And Bill teach these kids how to build with baby steps. That was key. But most importantly about Jack was his friendship. Now I'd like to thank some of the families who are a huge part of our success. the Heinz family. I coached 4 Heinzes, the Dalsess, 3, Randy Mardell, the Wolf family, multiple brothers, and Nick Dongan's family. They were all terrific families, and they made this program what it is today. I'd like to talk a little bit today about my coaching mentors. We didn't have an existing program here at St. Thomas, so I wasn't able to go and ask people for help on what you do. So these are a few of the mentors that really helped me along the way. Coach John McManus taught me about how to handle parents, good and not so good, to never back down, and to be the head coach. Coach Joe Flood taught me not to coach from the top because talent rises at different times. Coach Bill Funk, to never bullshit your athletes. They can smell it a mile away. Coach Jerry Brown, to coach with honesty and demand the utmost class in every aspect of your program. Coach Earl Wetzel taught me about commitment, along with Chris Brown. Earl would say, if you're fully committed, you're going to be a winner. And last but not least, Coach Wally Westcott. Wally taught me very early on about pride. To have pride in yourself, to have pride in your school, to have pride in your team, and to have pride in all the work that you do. With all those guys helping me, we were for sure success. Now I'd like to thank the people on my staff. Randy Mardell, my first assistant. Randy brought a new level of technical support to our program. Pascal Dalseth, who's here today, for quietly pushing the team to get better every day. He was unbelievable. Nate Smith, for bringing fun and laughter to the program. And Kelly Hines. Kelly brought grace, dignity, and style that was unmatched. Last but not least, I'd like to thank my family. To Susan, the best friend I ever had, the person who kept me in check, the wind that moved my ship. I thank you for all your help along this wonderful journey. To my son Ryan, the man you are and you are going to be makes me very proud, and I'd like to wish him a happy 21st birthday today. To Sarah, my sugar bear, the most beautiful girl in my life. I'm so proud to call you my daughter. I'd like to end by saying what a terrific journey I had at St. Thomas. From coaching here to from being coached here to coaching an extraordinary group of kids. It was the best job I ever had. I want to thank everyone for coming out and supporting me today. And Flutter, God bless.